who's in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Bombay. So today he'll be presenting his work titled COVID Vaccines, a review of the scientific evidence. This is like a part two of what he's already presented in IGIDR around a year back. So it's nice to have you back, Professor Bhaskaran, and we look forward to your presentation. As I mentioned, you have 45 minutes to talk about your work, and you have time till 5:30. You can take questions, discussions post that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This is the second time I'm coming for this seminar series here, as she said. Thank you all for coming. So this talk is titled COVID Vaccines, a review of the scientific evidence. So first I will begin with what are my credentials to talk on this topic. The question which gets asked around a lot is, am I a doctor to talk about vaccines? No, I'm not a doctor in the sense of I'm not a medical doctor. However, I'm an engineer and I understand numbers well, and a lot about vaccines is about numbers. And it has very little or nothing at all on anything clinical or medical. I will focus on numbers and statistics behind the vaccines, and also, as you all know, what numbers appeared on the media was a big part of this entire vaccine rollout, and hence that's the dialogue. Okay, so I will give you 45 minutes, so I will try to do justice to it within the 45 minutes. However, the gist of what I'm going to say will be covered in just few minutes. Okay, let me begin with this. Okay. All right, so let's take a hypothetical situation. Yeah. So let's say there is a student in a medical school practicing to become a doctor, and he gives his first semester exam. Okay, and he puts ink on the exam paper at the end of the exam, and immediately after proclaims himself to be a doctor. Okay, sounds odd. Now let's say there is not one such student, but 5, 6, 20, 25 such students or more. Then you begin to wonder what's going on. It's not a chance. You have to ask the question at that point whether there is a conspiracy going on. So I will leave it for you to decide whether what I'm talking, which is a lot of it is against the mainstream narrative around COVID and the COVID vaccines. I will leave it to you to decide based on what scientific evidence and data I present, whether it is conspiracy theory or whether it is conspiracy practice. Okay? And so this is the parallel. Can students who did not successfully complete their medical school be called doctors? Obviously, the answer to it is no. You have a PhD program here, and before the PhD defense, students are called doctoral candidates. They are not called doctors. Right? Same is true for all institutions. Now, what is the similar test for vaccines, it is the trial which happens. All of the COVID vaccines started trial in 2020. However, none have completed results. Okay, and that's the parallel, and that's the entire gist of this talk. If you want it in few minutes. Okay, recommended details. You can go through the details, but this is the gist. All of them started, but not one has completed. There are 25 plus vaccine candidates, many more trials of the same vaccine candidates. Not one of them has completed trial. This is verifiable fact. You can go in 5 minutes. I have some screenshots here. You can go to clinicaltrials.gov. The slides give the link also. My slides give the reference link for each of these, or you can just type the trial ID and search for it yourself. You can do it right now, verify it in few minutes. Okay, this is the Pfizer trial registered in US clinicaltrials.gov. No results posted. The study expected completion date was February 2023, February of last year. Okay, this is Pfizer, Moderna, same. Pfizer and Moderna, we have even used vaccine work. Next is AstraZeneca, which is repackaged the Covishield in India. In terms of number, it will probably match or even exceed the Pfizer and Moderna because of India numbers. So there it says results posted. You can go and check what results are posted. They are not the completed trial results. They are some other results from somewhere else. Okay. Vaccine, same story. Okay. So this is the gist of the talk. The rest of it is details. So at this point, you want to ask any questions at any point in the talk. If you want to stop and ask questions, please go ahead. I will adjust the rest of the talk accordingly. I have slides enough to cover, maybe even 2.5 hours, but I will adjust myself to finish within time. So at any point, if you have any questions or clarifications, please stop me and ask. Yeah.
So as I said, the basic requirement is the trial.
Yeah.
So is there legal? This is a legal requirement in any country.
Yes. It's a legal requirement in all countries. It's a legal requirement in India. It's a legal requirement in US. There are all the COVID vaccines are under experimental use authorization. Okay. And FDA defines, I don't know what the Indian limit is. US authority FDA defines a minimum efficacy of 50% for a product to be called a vaccine. Okay, and I will show you the story behind the 50% shortly. Alright, yeah. So this is it. Can products which did not successfully complete a randomized controlled trial be called vaccines? Answer should be no. That should be the minimum medical standard.
ये काम कर लीजिए ना मैडम, आपको बुला लीजिए, आपको बुला लीजिए, फोटो निकालने के लिए ना, आप भी बैक साइड आ जाइए, आप भी बैठिए, उसका एक दो ले लीजिए बस.
Okay. No, that is mine. Go to participants. Okay. Okay. The rest of the talk, I will try to cover as much as possible in 4 parts. The mantra was vaccines at the speed of science. This was the phrase used in media by Pfizer and everywhere. The vaccine war movie also praises the fact that India was able to develop vaccines at speed of science within 7 months. Is the number quoted there. So part 1, I will talk about what speed of science is necessary in the first place, for which age groups. Part 2 will talk about some of the main statistical blunders which were committed at the speed of science. Part 3, how safety has been pushed under the rug while developing vaccines at the speed of science. And then part 4, looking back and looking forward, at what happened and what is about to happen because of decisions taken at the speed of science. Alright, so let's start with this. This is a slide I showed in the last presentation also, but some of you may not have been there. In fact, I'm not going to go through the details of this slide. I will relate a few anecdotes. Many of you may not know this, but the data is blindingly obvious that there was no pandemic in Sweden. If you look at the yearly mortality, 2020 and 2021 were not out of the ordinary. You cannot find out which bar, if you plot over 10 years, for example. This I have plotted over 3-month intervals. So if you plot, you cannot find, in terms of overall mortality, which is the pandemic. Okay, so pandemic obviously should mean that more deaths than usual. If more deaths than usual are not happening, there is no ground for calling it a pandemic. So you can verify this. A lot of people, so for example, on social media, show some graphs saying that Sweden, by the way, I chosen Sweden because it was the only Western country which did not impose a lockdown. And for that reason, in the media, it was vilified. Even recently, it continues to be vilified both in media as well as in scientific community. Oh, Sweden sacrificed its own population, caused so many deaths by not imposing lockdown, by letting the virus run free. All those kinds of emotive phrases are being used. But there's nothing happening in Sweden. So many people post graphs saying that death rate in 2020 was significantly higher compared to 2019. That is true. 2019 was a very mild year into Sweden, and hence, if you look at year-to-year increase, there is a significant jump you can see from 2019 to 2020. But in their own graphs, you can see that 2020 was no different from 4 years back to 2016, and very little different from 2018. So if there was no pandemic in 2016, there was no pandemic in 2020 either. Okay, so you can again this link is available. You can verify this. So what I'm trying to get at is that field of science was highly questionable. The need for field of science. Okay, so let's look at some numbers from India. Do you think there was a pandemic in Kerala? Obviously, if there had been no pandemic in Kerala, then there would have been a lot of articles written and people will try to learn what Kerala did right, which other states did not. Okay. In fact, even going with official numbers, you can see here that there was a huge number of COVID deaths in Kerala in 2021. 2020, not much was happening. Kerala was being praised for its control of COVID, and nearly 50,000 deaths, COVID deaths registered in 2020. So from this graph, it appears that Kerala didn't have a pandemic. However, if you look at the overall mortality, it is indistinguishable from 2019. So I will tell you what X, Y, and Z are. Y is 2019, Z is 2021. So 2021, the same year which had 50,000 COVID deaths, had about the same number of deaths as 2019. Which makes you think, maybe if you had done so much testing in 2019 for COVID or whatever disease, would you have labeled them as COVID deaths? Okay? So let's digest this a bit. If the total number of deaths happening in 2021 is about the same, statistically indistinguishable from that happening in 2019, where did those 50,000 COVID deaths come from? Okay? So this is a problem with the test. The test labels someone without actually finding a virus. The PCR test is not meant for diagnosis. I mentioned this line the last time I gave a talk here. The PCR test for the first time in history when without a doctor in picture, a perfectly healthy person can be diagnosed as sick by a policeman, by a chief minister, by an airport authority, whoever.
You say X is 2019?
No, X is 2020. 2020 X is was a fall. 10% less, about 10 to 11%. Y is 19, Z is 2021. Okay, very little different we can see, hardly 6,000. It's not the 47,000 which you saw in the previous graph. Okay.
5 years, 5 is for the 7 year in.
Yeah. So if you there are research papers written on this, like if you do a PCR test on especially on people in hospitals, you will find positive.
They were probably non-COVID deaths which were categorized.
Yes, exactly. There were deaths which were happening anyway. That's what the numbers say here. They were categorized as COVID deaths because of the huge number of tests being conducted. Okay, so that's what. Hey, and you should note here that it's not a case of Kerala trying to hide this. In fact, the exact opposite is happening. Okay, they are labeling, they are overcounting the COVID deaths rather than undercounting. Okay, so that doesn't explain. Okay, so this fact you don't know. This is not very good information.
Just an aside, in literature, this is discussed as when you label something with COVID and from COVID. Something with COVID does not necessarily mean it is from COVID. It was labeled as with COVID.
Yeah. All right. Again, if you look at some of the numbers which appear in the media, they just don't fit. In 2020, Delhi was counting like 1, 2, 3, whatever number of days. But the overall number of deaths in 2020 was actually less than in 2019. How is that possible? Okay, so again, it's the test which is the problem. People are getting panicked because of doing a test. So again, this PCR test is the first time in history where a test is being done not for the diagnosis and treatment of the patient, but for something else. For lung, for lung, for travel, for all of things. Right? No other time in history has this kind of a test being done. Not for the benefit of the patient and the treatment, but for something else. Yeah? Yeah, so Mumbai there was significant excess deaths, as you can see. About 20% excess deaths was there. In 2020.
Actually, it could be more if you control for the exodus of population out of Mumbai.
It could be more, correct. So here again, the interesting case is that Dharavi, which in many ways is the exact opposite of Sweden. Dharavi is highly dense population, very little medical facilities, in both aspects, exact opposite of Sweden. The overall excess deaths, in fact, is, I think, percentage wise, is lesser than Sweden. How is that possible? It's definitely lesser than New York. Right? If Dharavi can have lesser deaths than New York, something is going on here. You have to really question what's going on. So the message here is that what you need to count is the overall number of deaths and not what is being labeled as COVID deaths. And if you look at the UK numbers now, it's in fact quite stunning. The number of deaths in 2023, I have plotted for first 51 weeks, excluding the last week, that is last week data is not yet available. The number of deaths is almost the same as 2020. Can you believe it? At the same time in 2020, panic was huge. So the same number of deaths are happened in 2023, everything is normal. How is that possible? So, lot of the narrative just doesn't fit the data. Why is there no same lives panic in 2023 compared to 2020? So this is the overall numbers, all age groups. If you look at the under 25 age groups, it is even more stark. There was nothing happening in 2020. Okay, again, this is all you can verify and find it on Excel law. Okay, from the UK official data. So under 45 deaths is statistically same as 2019. No, nothing happened in 2020. Under 45 is most of the working age population. Your student age group and children, school children, and so on. However, there is a huge increase, more than 10% increase in 2023. It is historical high. There is no concern. How is that possible? Yeah. So what is being churned in the media is not fitting with data. There are lots of consistency problems. 45 to 60 I have not plotted, but we can plot, yeah.
About total number of tests, but as I think trying to get at here, the distribution.
Distribution, yes.
So it might not be the case that there was concentration of tests under 45 each group, but maybe in the 45 to 60 people
Yes.
who you would expect to live longer, but then their lifespan has been shortened, and that's when maybe there was this.
Yeah. So in UK, 45 to 65 age group did have a jump in 2020 compared to 2019. But there was no overall Europe, if you see, average growth across Europe, there was no such jump in all under 65. There was a jump only in above 65.
You have census numbers for India also?
No. On Tamil Nadu, there was a paper which showed that for under 45 there was no jump in 2020. In 2021 there was a jump. Okay. Yeah.
You are also that COVID was affecting more the older people and not the younger people. Okay. No.
That's the exact opposite of what is the narrative. The narrative always is that COVID affects everyone.
No, but the next one more prominent in the older age group.
Yeah, correct.
So if you don't have data on the older age group,
All the data is there.
so but in older age group, under 45.
If you place it somewhere, it's the over 45. Over 45 did have excess tests during 2020, yes. But not in Sweden, by the way.
So what the reason where we get post COVID, even 2020, or even
Yeah.
when we come to 2019.
Very good question. So that is related to the point that case. Okay. So there is excess tests seen everywhere around the world. From India's insurance data also it is seen, and anecdotally also it is seen. In Australia, in UK, in Canada, in US, everywhere where there is data, 2022 and 2023 have seen exorbitant number of tests. Okay. However, nobody wants to probe why. That is the bigger problem. There is a spin which is going on. There was an ICMR study recently which came out on young people dying of sudden heart attacks. They blamed it on family history, but family history did not change in 2022. What sort of reason are you giving? It doesn't make any sense. So they're spinning. So again, it comes back to the main point which I made in the first few minutes. Where is the RCT? The definitive way of saying that the COVID vaccines are not responsible is the RCT, right? That's why you do a randomized control trial. Where are the results? It's not there. So you really have to question why the results are not there.
We have trials for these vaccines.
Yeah, I'm coming to you. Yeah. I'll tell you what happened. Yeah. Okay, so this is the first part. I'm going to go how much time am I?
Total time for us has been 5:15.
Fine. Okay. So next I'll come to some of the major statistical problems in this entire narrative. Okay. So the first spin, this is a standard marketing trick. Humans emotionally focus on relative risk reduction. Okay. Whereas what actually matters in reality is absolute risk reduction. So it's a standard marketing trick. This is done. This is also why very rich people will haggle for 10 rupees over an apple. So coming to the topic of the vaccines, as per the RCT published intermediate results, based on which the emergency use authorization was given, and there are publications available for each of the intermediate results. I have quoted numbers from the intermediate results for Pfizer, for Moderna, and for AstraZeneca Covishield. The relative risk reduction is the marketing number which was given in the media. So you all know if you ask anybody what is the efficacy, they will say 90%, 95%, whatever. That was the number which was shown in the media. Okay, so that is correct. That is from the trial. However, in the same trial, you can see that the absolute risk reduction was around 1% or lesser. And somebody came and told you that you take this vaccine, it will reduce your chance of getting COVID by 1%. Will you take it? No rational person will take it. Right? But that was the result. So this is all open secret. You can see the publication. Okay? So this is the standard thing. The absolute risk reduction is less than 1%. Okay, so that is part one of the story. Part two, absolute risk reduction. Okay. Yeah. So that if your risk reduces from 2 in a million to 1 in a million, the relative risk reduction is 100%. Okay? Absolute risk reduction is 1 in a million. Okay? Absolute risk reduction being low is indicative of the fact that the risk itself is low to begin with. Okay? They had, among the 40,000 trial participants, they had 160 cases over 6 months. This is not a big number. Okay, so that is part one of the story. Part two of the statistical problem is weighing efficacy. Okay? This also, if you had paid attention in the media, it came out beyond a point, it was very difficult to hide. Beyond half of 2021, efficacy was waning. So even though the relative risk reduction was 95% to begin with, it reduced to under 10% within 6 months. Now, if the FDA threshold is 60%, obviously this is falling even below the threshold. This means that if you account the split ink on the paper, it's a fail. Yeah. So the main efficacy is the other part of the story. So these are the two main things which are really burden both are.
Given this, you would say that the vaccine itself has failed, or the people who took them have failed. Started by people who fail become doctors.
Well, it's a philosophical question you can answer, but I mean, I think the medical community has failed. The statistics part of the. All right. Yeah.
It's one thing to see the vaccine, but you also sort of alluded the increased deaths to maybe.
Yeah, I thought that's a safety aspect. There are a lot of safety red flags are there. One of them is the excess deaths throughout the world. Okay, so if you have a wave which is increasing sharply and coming down sharply, which was the case with COVID, you can have a placebo show high efficacy if you give population level statistics, not RCT statistics. Randomized control trial, if you give and give population level statistics, not the media was carrying population level statistics. Population level statistics means what? How many people got COVID who are vaccinated, how many people, what is the percentage who are unvaccinated? That's the number. Yeah. So suppose you have a, let's say 3-month period which is the COVID wave, and then 3-month period following that you have vaccines. Okay? If you have a clean separation like this, you can show 100% efficacy with the placebo. Because nobody is getting COVID after wave. Yeah, so this is a hypothetical scenario. Hypothetical scenario where 3 months of wave followed by 3 months of vaccine. You are mistaking the fact that COVID better anyway with that going away being the effect of vaccine administration. This is the classical course of science, right? B happening after A, you are attributing A as a cause of B. That's false. Cause attribution cannot be done with this kind of statistics. So if you look at what actually happened, it was not 3 months of this followed by 3 months of this, but pretty much the same. Okay, including in UK, including US, in India, everywhere. You see, the vaccination campaign started pretty much at the back end of the wave end. Okay, UK they started seriously in January. By that time, half the wave was over. Same with US. By March 2021, they were claiming 100% efficacy. This is not an exaggeration. CDC director, US CDC director, there are videos even now you can find, claiming 100% efficacy in March, April 2021. It's a classical post-hoc fallacy. Alright, so another statistical fallacy. So suppose you have a product which is the exact opposite of the vaccine, which means instead of producing immunity, suppose it suppresses immunity, which means it increases your chance of getting the disease. Okay? Suppose you have such a product. Alright. If you follow the official definition of fully vaccinated, so let's see what happens. You take dose 1 and there is a gap under dose 2 and you are confident fully vaccinated 14 days after fully dose 2. Yeah. If you get COVID in between dose 1 and fully vaccinated, you are counted as unvaccinated. Yeah. So this is a false classification. So if you have a product which suppresses immunity, you still get high efficacy because of the wrong classification of vaccinated versus unvaccinated. Correct? And this is not a hypothetical thing I am saying. This is there in BBC graph. Okay? It's there in many graphs, including US CDC, New York Times, all the Indian media, everywhere. So this is an article from December 2021. So they will show this kind of graph where a number of deaths happening is mostly in unvaccinated and very few deaths happening in vaccinated. So obviously when somebody looks at this kind of a graph, you think, okay, it's better to get vaccinated. Yeah, very obvious. The conclusion is obvious. But this is all. First is, like I showed in the previous graph, the definition of unvaccinated itself is a problem. At the very least, we should show 3 curves. One for partially vaccinated, one for fully vaccinated, and one for unvaccinated. That's not what's happening. That is flaw number 1. The second is actually a little bit non-obvious. This I have done in the previous part, which is you have to look at all cause deaths, not just COVID deaths. You have to look at all cause deaths. For a person who is dying or their near and dear ones, the cause is irrelevant. Loss is a loss. Right? So you have to look at all cause deaths. However, the media will only report COVID deaths. If you report only COVID deaths, like I showed in the previous graph, immunosuppressant can show high efficacy. You do a little thought exercise. Even cobra venom can show high efficacy. Why? Because there is no COVID deaths in a venom, right? Because we die immediately. So that's why it's important to take all cause deaths. So there is a lot of statistical juggling going on in this. And the third one also is that, I mean, while the risk is clearly age differential, they don't separate out any of the data by age, right? So even though you say that, I mean, part of the narrative was saying that deaths are happening, but all the problems are going on without talking about any age. I mean, Lancet Journal has, be careful with COVID, promote the school closure, with children wearing masks, this kind of thing.
Why they just jump after July?
Why? Okay, so this is 2021. Yeah, so this is the second wave. This is the second wave. No, this is the third wave. I'm sorry. Yeah, second wave happened in December 2022. This is the third wave.
So, can we plot against the number of vaccinated and unvaccinated sample number of them?
Yeah, that's what we have done. Na?
No, it's about absolutely.
Yeah.
Per thousand, 10,000, 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm saying that can you plot with the number of those who are unvaccinated and death occurred in unvaccinated?
In fractional. Yeah, you can do. You can do. I can see this. A lot of UK did have some statistics given out. I have some graphs on it. In fact, in the same slide deck, I have some graphs. there again it shows that for under 45, there's actually increase in all-cause deaths for among the vaccinated, even as per UK's own official data. But again, I come back to the same point, which is the definitive way of showing that there is reduction in risk is the randomized controlled trial. Because population level statistics have too many confounding factors. You can never be sure.
Even in the case of the absolute number of total vaccinated person in the population,
Yeah.
if it would be quite low, then in that case,
No, but this is end of 2021. By this time, the vaccinated number was very high, close to 100%. Close to 100% definitely in the high age groups. This is death per 100,000 people anyway. It's a good factor. Okay. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Okay. This is a paper which analyzes Pfizer's own intermediate trial data and comes to the conclusion that the adverse event rate is actually 1 in 800, 12.5 per 10,000. That translates to 1 in 800. 1 in 800 is more than 0.1%. That's a pretty high number for a product which is given to healthy people. Yeah. Yeah.
In this, when you talk about death, for unvaccinated, it's a death of, like, so you do not know the reason of death, right? In this case,
Yeah, we don't know.
we don't know that.
No. Sorry. This is all COVID deaths. This is all COVID deaths.
This is all COVID.
All COVID deaths. Yes.
But during
COVID labeled deaths.
COVID level,
COVID labeled deaths. Deaths, but there is no clinical diagnosis protocol in this day for COVID.
but the definition of an unvaccinated is as you are correct.
Yes. Definition of unvaccinated is
Includes all the people who were.
yes. This is the definition of unvaccinated. Everyone before this. Okay. Any other questions or clarifications? Alright, so these are the three statistical blunders. So we quickly change the narrative to vaccine is efficacious against hospitalization and severe disease. But an analysis showed again that the severe adverse event rate is quite high, even as per the official trial data, intermediate trial data, which was published by Pfizer. And the interesting thing is that the intermediate trial data for Pfizer actually shows more deaths in the vaccinated group. Okay, this is also you can find it in 5 minutes, but it is hidden in one of the appendix. You have to know how to find it. But I leave the link directly in the top slides. You can click it and find it. This is Pfizer's 6-month trial publication. In the appendix, go to table S4. You will find that in the vaccine group, total number of deaths is more. How can you call it as preventing disease severity? Doesn't make any sense.
Another thing which has to be read between the line is that the trial data which was used by CDC give approval that came out in December. December 8th was the December 8th that Pfizer was given, and within a couple of weeks, Moderna was given. Whereas this kind of data, it took maybe another 1 year to get it for November 4.
I mean, this publication came out in November, but the data was there with Pfizer from the beginning. They have the data.
But after that, this Pfizer, what called Freedom of Information Act, after that, a lot of dump started.
But the back came much later. No, this is
Still,
this is not Freedom of Information Act. This is just the Pfizer's own publication. So similar things are there from official Pfizer's trial in 20-25 age group, 5-11 age group. I'm not going to go through the details because the thing is the same. So let's now skip to part 3, which is some of the safety aspects. Okay, so here also I have too many slides. I have decided to show 3 slides, which I think will be of use. Alright, so the underlying principle, which is a commonsensical principle, is that if there is a new product, by default, it has to be assumed to be guilty unless proven safe by incontrovertible data. Right? This is the natural assumption you have to make. If you are trying out a new thing and if something bad happens, then the default assumption is that the new thing is the cause. That has to be the default assumption. Right? Unless, of course, it can be coincidental. Unless there is data from the RCT which shows RCT is a definitive, I mean, as best a scientific evidence as you can get, that a product is safe or efficacious. Okay. So this principle has to be kept in mind. There have been a lot of red flags starting from early 2021. Okay, so I'm going to highlight some of these. Excess deaths I already pointed out, so I'm not going to go into that. So these are all excess deaths related. Okay, so excess deaths in Australia I want to point out because Australia is a specific case where they had very strict travel restrictions into the country. They are a complete continent, island, somewhere out in the south. So they some of the restrictions were very draconian. Their own citizens were not allowed back into the country. So this kind of restrictions they had for a long time, trying to keep away COVID and to vaccinate its population. However, after the vaccination they had waves. Okay, so they did have waves. And the interesting thing is, after their own, this is again from their own official website. Australia's ABS stands for some statistics website. They have an official statistics website. So here, let's look at the lines here. So x-axis is the time. Baseline is the orange, baseline number of deaths. Okay, COVID deaths is blue here. Blue line is the COVID deaths. And excess deaths over and above the average is the red line. Okay, so some things you can observe here. Excess deaths started even before the COVID wave, and excess deaths are continuing well after the COVID wave was receded. Okay, so this naturally points to a red flag blaming the new product. Right? Obviously, it's not conclusive because it's a population-wide statistic.
Baseline so increase in somewhere around July, August of 2021.
That's the winter. Winter always has more deaths.
So this is all of
All cause baseline. Orange and red are all cause. Blue is COVID. Okay. The blue line is COVID. Okay. So the all cause excess deaths has increased significantly. Okay. So this is a graph I have in my book also. So if you look at this is very noisy data because it's India data is very difficult to come by. Reliable data is very difficult to come by. If you look at death insurance claims, you can see that all insurance companies are required by law to tell how many death insurance claims they feel out every quarter. That data is openly available. So if you look at that data, there is a huge jump in the 3-month period following the second wave. Okay, that's the pink one there. Okay, so let me point it out here. This one, this huge jump. Okay, April to June 2021 was India's second wave. There is a huge jump in claims compared to the previous years in the 3-month period following. So that makes sense because of the previous 3 months, huge number of deaths happened. They are all claiming the death claims.
just settlements.
Claim settlements. These are claim settled, yes. Again, this is very, very noisy data because, I mean.
Because if there was lockdown in offices, settlement would have taken time.
That is seen in 2020. Okay, so what I want to point out here is that if you look at the 2 bars in the 6 months following that, which is this purple and this orange, this totals to about the same as the peak. There was no COVID after June, very little. After June, I mean, there was some about third wave in December, but nothing really happened in terms of deaths. You can look at the official graphs. Nothing was happening in terms of deaths after June 2020. Very little. Okay, so why are these 2 bars so huge? So that's again a red flag pointing to the safety of the new product. Okay. So the third one I want to point out, yeah.
Insurance data.
Yeah.
Law about the data is what claims settlement. Do not be the same thing as the claims report.
Correct. That's correct.
You know, I think that gap because sometimes documentation is not here.
Yeah.
And if you look at the old draft in the 2020, you have the number of claims settlement because office were cut out.
Yes.
But whereas in 21, you may have reporting delays, documentation delays. So there's a lag effect and it will accumulate.
Yes. Yes. I lag effect you are saying because of the second wave itself. So I think it's
you are not aware. In many cases, it happens that people are not aware that insurance policy they come to know later. And obviously, it becomes the
it's possible. I'm not ruling it out. There's nothing in the data to rule it out. But my reading is it's improbable. I think.
No, either way, it shows excess deaths around that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's a lag of something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's saying that the excess deaths is not really in that period, but
Could be 20 or
is just due to the delay. It's possible. And that's why that, I mean, this data is really, very noisy. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at Mumbai data on heart attacks. There was a newspaper article based on an RTI, which was submitted to Mumbai Municipal Corporation. And what it showed is that in the first 6 months of 2021, the number of increase in heart attack deaths was even more than the total COVID deaths in 2020. Okay, so you can see the numbers here for more than 12,000 increase in just 6 months. So the magnitude of something, that which is happening to the population, but it should spread as going without notice.
COVID is for the entire year and heart attack 91 is only for 6 months.
Only for 6 months, yes. Okay. COVID is for entire year. COVID deaths in 2021 in entire year. So the number increase in 6 months is more than both of them. You can see. Okay. So this again is a huge red flag. It should have been thrown long back. Yeah.
One of the whenever a person has COVID, there was a claim that when you have COVID, the probability of getting a heart attack increases.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any possibility that when you have heart attack, it is also the after effect of having COVID?
Yes. It is possible. It is possible.
But then you are counting it as
I'm not counting it.
sorry, not you. I mean, whoever has given this data.
I don't need this guy. It's just heart attack important. Okay. Whether the underlying cause is COVID or vaccine is not known. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
So there is a possibility that increase has been caused by the COVID.
Yes. Yes and no. So okay. So this is the spin which is given in media. I think it is. I mean, it's possible certainly, but it is improbable. I'll tell you the reason why. Moreover, this increase in heart attacks started only in 2021.
COVID happened.
Yes.
After effect will always come after like some period.
Yeah, that seems a bit absurd. It should come 9 months after.
No, but whenever you take some medicine and the after effects may come after some time. The way I data.
Yeah, it is possible. So there was even.
लोगों ने देखा क्या ये ज्वाइन लिंक बोला था सर ने भेजा था कोविड का
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it is possible. Okay. Once again, the definitive proof of whether the vaccine has been blamed or not is RCD. There is RCD. It's not there. Right? So all this put together paints a very suspicious picture.
So if we can somehow get the data, I'm not really sure that those increase, so those who have had a heart attack, if we can get their RT-PCR, then we can find
Those kind of studies have been done. Cohort studies are there. There was a large scale cohort study done in Israel comparing vaccinated and unvaccinated for heart attacks.
No, I'm not saying about vaccinated and
Sorry, they compared COVID positive versus non-COVID positive heart attacks, and they found no statistical difference. That was in the cohort study, which is of lesser quality than RCT. Yeah. Okay, so the next one I will show is I will skip these. I will show this. Yeah. So this is the other huge red flag, which again there is insufficient attention. So Germany is a country which happens to have birth rate which follows a cyclical pattern. You can find this in the official data of Germany. You can see that year after year there is a per quarter there is some difference from one quarter to another, but year to year there is very little difference. Okay, so here for example, if you compare January to March 2018 with January to March 2019, 2020, the blue bars are similar. Okay, so these are grouped by quarter. So these bars, it's not in chronological order. Okay, this is all in first quarter, this is all in second quarter, this is all in third quarter, fourth quarter of the year. Okay, now what happened is that there has been a significant decrease. Okay, we can do a statistical sigma analysis, and this is 3 to 5 sigma. 3 to 5 sigma is significant variation, and this is exactly 9 months from the rollout of the COVID vaccine for the child-bearing age group, the under 16. Okay. For the under 16, Germany started in May 2021. 9 months from that, there is a drop, which is significant. Now, why has this not been probed? And this again is something which is verifiable, right? And it's also obvious why would all of Europe's data shows that there was no problem for under 45 to begin. There was no COVID problem for under 45 to begin with, which is mostly the child bearing age. Yeah. Why would you want to do a mass medical rollout for this population, which was not at risk to begin with, and then not look at the effect seriously? This is just absurd. Okay, so I will skip these things. So one other narrative which goes on is that since there are a lot more scientific publications surrounding the vaccines used in the West than AstraZeneca Covishield used in India, there is a sort of a myth which is floated in the media and social media that somehow the AstraZeneca vaccine is much safer. But the data doesn't support this claim. In fact, data show that in various dimensions, all these compete with each other for safety or lack of safety. So there are publications which show that AstraZeneca is as bad in terms of.
In fact, about 20 odd countries have banned AstraZeneca by May.
That's right. Yes. So Europe, most of the countries in Europe have stopped using AstraZeneca for the younger age group by March, April 2021. Okay. This is all there in newspapers also. You can find it. Now, why did India continue?
It started in March for the older age group and then for the.
So I once again remind the principles underlying this. For a healthy society, new products should be considered unsafe until proven safe, guilty unless proven innocent, and humans should be considered innocent until proven guilty. Right? But with COVID, the exact opposite happened. Humans are treated as sick unless proven guilty with a PCR test. But the new drug is assumed safe unless it's actually the onus of proving unsafe is on somebody else. Right? So that's what they have. The exact opposite. Okay. So I will spend the last few minutes looking at some rear view and front view. So the question which always comes is if if you say that Kerala's numbers point to there doesn't seem to have been any pandemic at all. Well, what happened in 2021? There were a lot of excesses. There's no denying that. There was lot of deaths in that period, and everyone was under panic at that time. But the question becomes: did the deaths cause the panic, or the panic cause the deaths? Okay. In several situations, panic is a sure shot way to die. And there was a lot of panic moving going on, even among the age groups, which were never at risk to begin with. One should note that lots of private situations, the myth is that there was no lockdown in 2021, and hence we had a large wave. This doesn't make any sense because lockdown started unlocking by June 2020. By October 2020, there was huge crowds in Mumbai buses. In fact, local was shut, so even more crowd in buses. Yeah, is there any place in India which doesn't have crowd? Dharavi I mentioned, we had elections in 2020. Delhi farmers protest in December 2020, Jan 2021. Goa, New Year back parties in 2020, beginning of 2021. Number of crowds resulted in anything. Mumbai local started for everybody in February 2021. Nothing happened for one entire month. Why did things start going up only in April? It's obvious that human crowd have nothing to do with this. It is just seasonal, and there was a huge situation of medical stampede going on. You know that there was a lot of cornering of already scantily available resources. People booking hospital beds, holding oxygen cylinders, panicking over oxygen falling to 90, using a device which nobody knows the accuracy of. I mean, the temperature readings were a joke. I don't know if it's calibrated any of those machines, but we were panicking based on those. So panic added to the problem. And there were a lot of unhelpful and interventions which are now known to be harmful. There are documented cases of ventilators being actually harmful to patients as opposed to being helpful. New York had a huge wave in April 2020, which was a huge part of the entire world getting scared. And there was huge use of ventilators there on recommendation by WHO at that time. But later, a lot of studies came out saying that this was actually harmful to the patients. It actually killed more patients than saved, and hence they stopped that protocol. Same with remdesivir. Remdesivir was selling for lakhs in India during 2021. Nobody knows what drug was finally given to the patient. And randomized controlled trials on remdesivir have shown that there is actually net harm compared to benefit for treating COVID. Yeah. 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 This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
This movement part. So, do you mean like in statistical terms, like while counting that, like even partially vaccinated individuals are considered unvaccinated? Is that?
No. To go anywhere, you are required to take a PCR test.
But that has there's like a herd immunity consideration for that, right? Like if there are more, assuming that the vaccine works, then the number of the higher the number of unvaccinated people in the population, the easier it is for the disease to spread. So
yeah, so that's the official narrative, but it just doesn't hold. Herd immunity assumes a vaccine which stops transmission. It doesn't stop transmission, even by official word. Whether it stops anything at all is a big question. It is officially admitted by Pfizer that it doesn't stop transmission. It is officially admitted by anybody, including Narendra Modi. That's why Dawali, some lines there, what is that? Dawali Kadai, something. So, for getting herd immunity, you need vaccines which stop transmission. These don't. Yeah, so this is what happened in, I mean, there were a lot of unnecessary deaths. And one really has to question whether the product has had some role to play because all of these Southeast Asian countries, you can look at data from Singapore, Korea, Japan, all of the Southeast Asian countries, Australia, all of them had their COVID waves after the vaccine rollout. Yeah. So, of course, to conclude that it is because of the vaccine only I was stop fallacy. I'm not concluding that, but you have to prove that possibility. Anecdotally, during the 2021 medical stampede, I have done lots of interviews. Anecdotally, it seems to be the case that those who avoided hospital due to whatever reason, because they didn't want to die alone or they didn't trust the hospital or whatever it is, they had a higher chance of survival compared to those who sought hospital care. And the final thing is, I mean, this huge number of deaths happened. Where is the analysis? Who is asking? Nobody is asking in the entire world, not just in India. India, of course, life is free, life goes on. But excess deaths are happening in UK, as I showed in some of the starting slides. Who is probing? Nobody is probing. Why? That itself is a huge red flag.
And so we are looking at this for lot of deaths that happened in the second wave, especially among the young people who are affected through this. It's just the unintended consequence of not letting the virus spread enough in 2020 itself. The sudden surge of cases that people from very basic medical treatment. It's just the possibility, it's just the chance of getting some oxygen, which can just having that much treatment, that is what saves it.
Correct. It is definitely possible.
I really never saw a wave in the
yes, nothing. That's the most surprising thing. I did a slums right next to our IT Bombay campus. I was constantly talking with them. There was nothing happening there. How is it possible that New York is having huge waves? There's nothing happening in the Mumbai slums. How is that possible? If something is
all got exposed to the virus in 2020 itself.
Yeah. It's that exactly. Yes, you're right.
Clearly for that 60 to 70% of them had antibodies,
Yes.
even though they were in lockdown, because they are sharing washrooms. So obviously the virus spreads.
Yes.
In the second wave, because we got to know there was basically a lot of people in high rise, I mean, at least in the higher socioeconomic strata of India, people living in gated colonies. We get to know deaths of people who don't normally die. But it's basically people who are protected, who are sheltered for so long, who are working from home and then suddenly being exposed, and all of us have access. I mean, one person is the same exposure.
Yes.
Just
and this is also the second point which I have mentioned. There was anxiety all around, and lowered immunity. Vitamin D is known to have good correlation with reducing COVID risk. For an entire year, vitamin D of an entire population was reduced. Obesity increased, diabetes increased. You ask all diabetic people not to go for walks. So what will happen? Their diabetes increase and out of control, and when COVID hits, they are more vulnerable. So this kind of thing definitely happened.
in India, after the first zero survey, only 7% people had got antibodies. They had shut down society to that extent. compare it to countries like Africa, where we don't see.
Mumbai was much higher.
Mumbai, that's what I'm saying. If other places had been like Mumbai, we would probably not have seen that kind of thing. It would be more distributed, at least among the young. Given the risk factor of COVID, it's not like a flu virus.
Yeah.
So I think the major thing to analyze here is that the way we shut down society, the virus would inevitably someday spread. And shut it down for now, it would spread. But if we had just let it, the way we shut down and we protected some people too much, they never got exposed. But when they got exposed,
Yeah.
became.
Yeah, we don't know the way nature works, and to mess with something which you don't understand fully is a death sentence, literally. And what's happening in the future? It's not even future, it's happening right now. It's in fact slightly past tense also. Kerala public health bill was passed, and the government gets to decide based on sudden and rapid increase in number of cases of a disease, they can declare a pandemic, they can declare an emergency. Okay, emergency means, I don't think many of you grew through 1975, but all of you grew through 2019, 2020. So you know what an emergency means, right? It's basically government accepting power. And it has clauses which are chilling. Like a district officer can determine based on this sort of judgment which gathering is allowed, which gathering is not allowed. Not accountable to anybody. Local public health officer can enter anybody's home on suspicion of any disease, and they can be asked to vacate their own home. And in all this, there is no judicial oversight. It's frankly very even in police arrest, there is judicial oversight. Police cannot just enter your home and take you away to prison, to jail. Have to judicial oversight. In fact, the exact opposite of judicial oversight is that in written, this is a quote from the bill. No suit, prosecution, or other legal proceedings shall lie against the public health officer. So even after the fact, if there is some nullified found, you cannot do that in a court of law. Yeah. So this is just a recipe for totalitarianism. And all of this is being conducted under the auspices of, under direction of a WHO pandemic treaty, which is yet to be signed, but all things are lined up for signing up a treaty with WHO, which gives not just the WHO, but the WHO Director General unfettered powers. So, WHO Director General, who is the TO, none of us have elected him or selected him, right? He can have control over declaring a pandemic, and India and whichever country signs this treaty will be obligated to follow protocols, right? At least in 2020, legally you are not obligated to follow protocols. Well, we did follow, and a lot of things happened, but here it will be a tough break to even get forced to listen. Even tougher than last time. So that is where we're going. And and this is the title of science. The title of the talk was what is the scientific evidence for COVID vaccines. I will reiterate that the best scientific evidence of a product to be called a vaccine is the randomized controlled trial. That is the minimum medical standard we should hold a product to, and those trial results completed trial results are not available. And worse, as you know, on October 2, 2023, the mRNA technology was given the Nobel Prize. And this is a quote from one of the Nobel Prize committee members, vice chair of the Nobel Prize committee members. Giving a Nobel Prize for this COVID vaccine can make hesitant people take the vaccine and be sure that it's very efficient and it's safe. So what he's saying is that it's not that the prize is given because it is efficient and safe, but the other way around. Because the prize is given, people will think it is efficient and safe. That is exactly what he's saying. Yeah. And the ultimate proof of efficiency and safety lies in the randomized controlled trial, whose results are not available. Yeah, so I will plug my book at the end again, like last time. So I have a collection of all these statistical and math problems in the official narrative in my book titled as Math Murder in Media Manufacturing Madness. So I will take any further questions. Yeah.
So in kind of slides you have compared all those dead and the rate of vaccinated, right? So when you compare the all vaccinated ones, sorry, all those dead, will you also include the death by COVID?
Yeah, of course.
But then, okay, so then you have to subtract that value and then come up with. But it also doesn't tell the story. Had the vaccine any impact on the death or like
On the
like if you get COVID after vaccine or not and then you die or not?
see, both metrics are important. It's not the exclusion of one metric. What I'm saying is that if you are computing efficacy against death for a product like a vaccine, you have to take all cost death. Because if there is some other cost which
But in all corporate there are a number of factors like heart disease, lung disease,
Yes.
etc.
yes,
And if you can somehow take all cost death minus
you can do both. No? I mean that's why there is a trial. All participants are supposed to be followed up for 3 years as per the initial proposal. You take every cost noted down with to the last detail. That's what they are supposed to do.
One reason why they go for all cause death is suppose because of adverse effects it could lead to additional deaths which may not be captured. Okay, so that's why you take everything. And if you want to look up all cause deaths, then very good work has been actually done by Daniel and Both. He has this site called population.
For example, there are publications which say that after the COVID vaccine, the risk of daily increases. So you have to take into account daily deaths also, right? I'm just giving a specific example, right? So again, the person who is dying or his family members, cause of death is largely irrelevant, right? The loss is a loss. So if you are saving saves you from death, it has to be all cause death. I mean, it's not like I want to decrease death by only one cause and increase in another way. That is absurd.
greater metric to be consider all cause death minus those who are vaccinated with that death, but have died because of after effects of COVID.
Yeah. So all of this, again, all of this in detail is supposed to be given by the RCT results. Yeah. I mean, you can find some of this in the intermediate results. The published part. Yeah.
Have you got any feedback from doctors about the
Yes. There are two kinds of doctors, right? There are media doctors and there are doctors who are unpopular with the media. There have been doctors who have been skeptical of the vaccine. In fact, if you talk to many of them, they will say unofficially that they and their colleagues did not take the vaccine, but they generated the certificate to take the certificate. So I have talked to doctors who have participated in co-vaccine trial. I have talked to Dr. Jayaprakash Muniyal, who is country's lead epidemiologist. In our Universal Health Organization, we have some epidemiologists who have talked to, and Dr. Deepak Natarajan, who gave an interview just yesterday on CNBC. You can check it out. He is the country's leading cardiologist, we can say, also decades of experience. So, but the media doctors are complete opposite. The media portrays generally doctors who will play the media narrative. So you will get a one-sided view if you look at the media, whether it's print media or TV media. So they will all play the mainstream tune. They will not step away from that. There will be some who will step away, they will not be given chance. So this is what happens.
Let's go back to that. I mean, Professor Mulay was not part of the COVID task committee initially, and he was actually he was slandered in the media. There was actually a tweet by Mr. Gupta saying that. But later on, when the Omicron variant came, he was added to the because they wanted to open up society. So I mean, it was
I mean, say, see, all doctors will finally accept that for any virus, it makes no sense to give a vaccine to a person who has already been infected. In fact, the basis of vaccine itself is induced immunity. If the immunity is already been induced, why will you give a fake one? Right? With the real enemy you have fought, your body has fought and won. For survivors, why will you give? It makes no sense. Right? So that basic biology was forgotten by the entire medical fraternity, with some notable exceptions, of course. And they will admit it in private. They won't admit it.
The other thing is about the cytokine storm. Like it's like this. Like if you suppose you are stung by a bee once, not even if you are stung twice, you will have greater pain. That means if you are given the vaccine and then you get COVID, so your body's immunity response will actually be so harsh that you will be much more sicker. So that means safety and the safety protocols that was being talked about. So all coronavirus trials, vaccine trials were done before 2020 in animal trials, before 2019 animal trials. Actually, all the animal trials failed and there were more deaths of more than this. Because coronavirus, not the SARS-CoV-2, but the other coronaviruses which have happened in 2002. So various trials have actually talked about the cytokine storm happening. So this was again.
I mean, those medical details I don't know, except that high level some possibility exists. I don't. Yeah.
You showed us cross-country numbers as well as metro cities numbers. But you also have the figures for urban and rural areas of India. So probably that could add a different perspective because the exposure to COVID is also important. And I feel that rural areas are better exposed to COVID.
Yes, there is, the answer is no, I don't have. There is very little good data available in India.
Actually, in rural India, we don't count or report related to different causes. It's generally we don't take report.
Yeah, we don't take report. Correct.
And even in case of the entire village that we are infected with COVID and we don't have any infrastructure to examine, to do RT-PCR and other things.
Yeah. So I heard anecdotes going back to my interviews. People from UP telling, for example, they know villages where nobody died, but there were villages where lots of people died. Now, what explains this kind of variability? One really has to probe. And
some answers are there in the zero surveys. First zero survey is basically the survey which tracks the antibodies. After the first zero survey was done after August of 2020, rural India was untouched by COVID. You see the difference after the second wave. Many deaths happened in rural India. They were untouched previously. When you see the antibody presence after that, it's huge. So it's almost as if we got vaccinated.
I will tell one more thing, which is that this zero survey is definitely useful information, but it is not complete information also. There are papers which take blood samples collected for some other reason, like cancer research and whatnot, collected from 2019 and analyzing blood samples to show that COVID was prevalent in, for example, Italy in 2019. Now, if it was present in Italy in high numbers in 2019, you can be guaranteed that it was present in India also. It was present in many other places also. So another red flag is that WHO is entirely silent about when SARS-CoV originated. How it originated, of course, that's an entire political fight in itself, whether it is man-made or natural. But the question of when have not been probed sufficiently. And to me, the answer is why it is not probed sufficiently is because the entire narrative falls apart again. That, lockdown was the one which kept people from getting infected, and that narrative just as a whole. I mean, there was no lockdown in 2019. If the virus was there, how come we were not seeing so many deaths in 2019? Right? There are papers which show, as high as 5% of the blood samples from Italy showing seropositive. 5% is a large number.
Sorry to interrupt, but after time we can take this one question.
Sure, yeah. Acha, from the chat, okay. Okay, I will answer. How do I answer?
There's a possibility there.
Okay, I will just put up the first slide which has the link. Okay, so tinyurl.com/C19vax.
You can keep the discussion forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. July 2020, right? Now, there are large growth happening. The virus is around. Why did it not change from year to year?
They may be exposed to that.
So the entire narrative around there is a seasonality aspect which is missed, right? To this day, in the official narrative admits that viruses are seasonal, and humans have very little control over seasons.
Is there any